Breaking local entertainment news, CBS has canceled Magnum PI. More on that in a moment, but first, more developing news.
Yeah, let's go live to Mike Valerio from Orange County, California, where a wildfire has engulfed several homes.
Well, this fire started 24 hours ago, and teams are still putting out hotspots at this hour. As we look at our backdrop right here, firefighters are adding more hoses, attacking the smoldering debris inside this mansion. This as crews will continue to experience difficult conditions ahead.
The U.S. Drought Monitor said Thursday California's rainfall is nearly 10 inches below normal this year, and it's clearly not helping an already early fire season. Listen to this backyard video with birds tweeting like a normal Laguna Hills day. But look at what happened in this community, and it's clearly far from normal.
It started running up canyon and up slope. Those are two devastating factors, and you throw some wind on it. That's what caused, that's what made the devastation.
Orange County firefighters say wildfires are spreading faster and fiercer than ever.
I mean, we're seeing spread in ways that we haven't before.
The Orange County Sheriff's Department says at least 900 homes are under mandatory or voluntary evacuation orders.
We made the evacuation order, and they immediately responded to that order, got out of harm's way, which allowed us to get our resources in there and start engaging in the firefight.
It's not clear yet how much is contained or destroyed.
Okay, it looks like the cat has been saved.
Making homes saved all the more cherished.
Keys.
Thank you so much. Did you have to break the door?
No, I use keys.
Amazing.
All right, there you go.
Thank you so much.
So bottom line, what firefighters are trying to do here, they are attempting to make as much progress as they can, because as we go towards the weekend, temperatures and winds are increasing, humidity is decreasing, perfect conditions for more wildfires. That's the latest reporting here in Laguna Niguel, California. I'm Mike Valerio. Let's send it back to you.
All right, let's get to that developing entertainment news that we learned this morning. Magnum PI canceled by CBS. Let's bring in Billy V with more on that. Billy, what do you know?
Thank you very much. After season 4, Jonathan, Magnum PI is done. There will be no season 5. Jay Hernandez played, of course, the lead character role of Thomas Magnum. And, of course, you remember the 1980s reboot back in the day, which did really, really well. This one going only 4 seasons, but the only thing is that its ratings was still good. Number 1 in its time slot in that evening, and there was nothing near it. But it turned out to be between CBS Television and Universal Studios. It's very different these days to have such a lead program be outside of the CBS, not be from CBS Studios. So this is kind of an outside show. And so there needed to be negotiation. It fell through, and they say, well, Magnum PI is done.
And it's a high production value show that brought a lot of local jobs to our local entertainment industry. Talk about your experiences being on set, working with actors, working with the crew. What do you recall from this great run?
I got to be in the world, not in the world premiere of the actual episode, but I was always the host of the world premieres on Waikiki Beach, the red carpet walks for both Hawaii Five-0 and Magnum PI. This is devastating. This is one of the premier shows that we would hope go the long length, like Hawaii Five-0, 10 seasons, bringing people to the islands, bringing smiles and that aloha warmth, spreading that wide and far. So now, hopefully, more shows will pick up. This has been the busiest, though, that it's been for film production, television production. You've got Doogie Kamialoha that's coming back. NCIS Hawaii has been renewed, and they were renewed early. The whole NCIS franchise has been re-upped for next season. So we've got a lot of television still to be made from here in Hawaii. Just no Magnum PI.
And I've always been told from local tourism officials that shows like Magnum and 5-0 were like a postcard to the world for tourism. Like I've heard in Germany, 5-0 is huge in the ratings and still huge in syndication. I'm just wondering more about what that kind of meaning is for the loss here. And it was how many seasons? You said we're on season 4 right now. And with that void, I know there's other shows, but is there going to be concern that we're not going to be able to fill it?
Well, we'll have to see. That means that there's going to be something's going to have to come from scratch, perhaps, a new series show. but it shows the viability of what Hawaii has had so far, and the ratings were good for Magnum PI. Hawaii 5-0 was that postcard, so was Magnum. So many people searched Google for the places that they saw, in their favorite episodes before they came to Hawaii, with the hopes of, can I go to those places? Can I visit those places? Because they were iconic. A lot of that Magic Island and spots all around Oahu. So it's going to be tough, but hopefully some new shows will come out, and we're, of course, banking on NCIS Hawaii to continue bringing Hawaii to the world.
That show certainly has a buzz about it. Billy V, thanks for that update. You'll have more on this on Sunrise tomorrow.
Before the Red Hill fuel leak that sickened thousands of people on Oahu, there were problems with the military's fuel operations. Honolulu Civil Beat obtained inspection documents dating back to 2019. They found that maintenance programs were insufficient and spill prevention training was not occurring as required. This was not just happening at Pearl Harbor facilities. There were also problems on Kauai. The Navy did not disclose the location of specific issues. Federal authorities say the man accused of threatening state and city leaders claims to be part of a sovereignty group known as Occupied Forces Hawaii. The group claims it's nonviolent and had nothing to do with the threats. Rick Daysog has the story.
Attention, attention! You are in a state of war. This is an active war zone.
The Occupied Forces of Hawaii Army describes itself as lawful civil combatants for the country of Hawaii, which they say has been under illegal occupation since the Kingdom of Hawaii was overthrown in 1893. Their protests are loud, confrontational, and theatrical.
You aiding and abetting an enemy and an insurgency.
Like that exchange with a DLNR officer at the Alawai boat harbor. Their leader says the tactics are necessary.
You gotta be in uniform, and you gotta be belligerent. To be belligerent, like all the people that were on the Mauna were not belligerent. And it wasn't a protest, it was a demonstration.
Occupied Forces Hawaii members must renounce all ties with the American government, including U.S. laws.
Groups like this, very similar to very right-wing groups on the U.S. mainland, militia groups, the so-called sovereign citizen groups.
The group points out its community work, but investigative reporter Ian Lind worries about their militarized rhetoric.
That's just something you can't discount as, oh, they're just nut jobs, because they could be dangerous nut jobs.
Federal authorities have been keeping tabs on the group for a while. They charged Lindsay Kinney, who claims to be a member, with threatening the Waianae harbor master after he confronted the group's leader, Sam Lilikoi. Honolulu Mayor Rick Blangiardi and Lieutenant Governor Josh Green allegedly received similar threats from Kinney. Former Honolulu Deputy Police Chief John McCarthy is also concerned about the background of the leader that members call Colonel Lilikoi.
That's scary, I think. He's already a convicted felon.
Court records indicate that Lilikoi's birth name is Eric C.A. Nelson. Law enforcement sources say Nelson was the notorious bicycle bandit who robbed several grocery stores at gunpoint during the early 1990s. He was convicted and served 20 years in prison.
We know he carried a gun during the commission of his crimes. And then now he's yelling out this kind of stuff. It is scary.
Lilikoi's videos don't advocate violence. He skipped out on an interview with Hawaii News Now. The group did not respond to questions about Lilikoi's criminal past. Rick Daysog, Hawaii News Now.
1 million empty chairs around the family dinner table.
It's been 2 years and 3 months since the first case of COVID-19 was identified in the U.S., and the nation has reached a milestone now once seemed unthinkable: 1 million deaths. Now here at home, COVID hospitalizations are rising again. Here's Hilton Rathel with the Healthcare Association of Hawaii.
If we get to 100 patients in our hospitals, that will start to cause us some concern.
And we're getting very close to that. The Healthcare Association says hospitalizations jumped from 70 about a week ago to 93 on Monday and to 91 yesterday. And we've got this update for you. Public schools are still requiring masks through the end of the school year and through the summer as well. DOH's Dr. Sarah Kimball gave us that update.
So we came to the decision this week that there will be no changes in the school guidance which applies to summer programs as well in K-12 settings. So that means continued guidance for indoor masking for summer programs.
Now, officials say they have not made a decision on whether indoor masking will remain mandatory for the next school year. They are urging caution as we enter the graduation season as well. More than 40 graduation ceremonies are planned for next week, with the first one scheduled to start on Monday. Now to developing news from the Asia Pacific. North Korea has declared a national emergency after it claims to identify the nation's very first COVID-19 case. All the cities in the country are going into lockdown. Let's turn things over to Paula Hancock with the very latest developments on that.
This is likely the first time we've seen North Korean leader Kim Jong-un wear a mask in public since the pandemic began, ordering all cities to lock down after admitting the first COVID-19 case in Pyongyang.
We think that there have probably been cases before, but they haven't admitted them, and the fact that they've admitted them now would indicate that there's really no hiding it.
The number of cases of the Omicron variant are unknown, but North Korea is one of only 2 countries in the world believed to have delivered 0 COVID vaccinations.
Even in other settings where there's very low immunization coverage, presumably there would be higher levels of prior exposure. And so this is really a unique situation that we have in North Korea right now.
COVAX, the global vaccine sharing hub, has moved to a needs-based vaccine allocation, saying it's currently not committed any for North Korea. Pyongyang last year is believed to have rejected vaccines from China, according to the UN. China now says it is ready to provide its full support. The level of testing is low. Up until March 31st, just 64,000 people had been tested out of a population of over 25 million since the pandemic began. And health infrastructure in the country is fragile at best. Even developed health systems around the world have struggled under Omicron outbreaks.
I would imagine that in North Korea, the high levels of malnutrition may be an additional risk factor for severe disease and death associated with COVID-19 right now.
It is a population under lockdown in a country not set up for delivery of food and survival items. Extended isolation could have a serious impact on future food supply, already at a crisis in the country.
Could affect agriculture and harvest. It could affect, obviously, interior commerce within the country, the ability of the public distribution system, which is already, not working very well, to function.
As many experts wondered whether an Omicron outbreak would halt its recent run on missile and weapons tests, Pyongyang answered Thursday evening with another launch. Paula Hancock, CNN Seoul.
Well, the world is still reacting to this week's election in the Philippines. Here's Howard Dykes with more on that.
It's the Pacific Rim Report with Carl Baker from the Honolulu-based Pacific Forum. Big story this week, the landslide election of Ferdinand Marcos' son as president of the Philippines. And my question to you is, how far does the apple fall from the tree?
Well, it not very far, of course. He certainly has spent a lot of time trying to rehabilitate his father's history. But the one difference is that he's not nearly as dynamic as his father was. He's more of a sort of a quiet, less vociferous sort of person. And also, when you compare him to, of course, the current president, President Duterte, he's much less vocal and much less aggressive in the way he acts. And so I think that's a difference, and that'll play out as he takes on the presidency, I think.
Has Marcos Jr. taken any specific positions that will be of concern or interest to Washington?
Well, no, and that's part of the story, of course, is that he's very much avoided any policy sorts of statements. People try to glean a few things, that he's going to continue the somewhat pro-China policy. He's suggested that he's going to continue the alliance relationship because he thinks that that's an important part for his nationalist agenda. I mean, his real statement that he's made so far focuses on nationalism, that Philippine nationalism is important to him.
That sounds like it isn't necessarily a bad thing for U.S. officials. He may be playing one side against the other, I suppose.
Like everybody in Southeast Asia does. I mean, this is the thing Southeast Asia does, is they try to play China and U.S. against each other in the hopes that they don't end up in the middle of a conflict between U.S. and China. So I think that's right.
Does the U.S. Still have an important economic or strategic interest in having some close friendship with Manila? I mean, it's not like we have Subic Bay anymore.
And sure, there is still a close economic connection with the Philippines. We still do a lot of investing in the Philippines, and see it as an important economic partner, and also increasingly a security partner. Not necessarily as robust as it was back in the Cold War days before they closed the bases in '91. But we certainly still have both a security and an economic relationship. And I think the Philippines appreciates that relationship and understands that it has to nurture that. But of course, with China on the scene, that's taken some of the economic importance away.
We're out of time, but I want to jam just one quick question. And do we know if Bong Bong has ever been to Washington? Does he have any relationships with people in D.C.?
Not much. But he has been in Hawaii, as you know.
Yeah.
He was with the family here in Hawaii, so that's his real American relationship.
Okay, I appreciate that.
And on that note, don't forget, we have an entire new H&N documentary posted right now to your H&N digital platforms called the Imelda Tapes. It really explores exactly what they were talking about right there, the time the Marcos family spent in exile right here on the islands. You can find it on any of your H&N digital platforms. So, Mark, let's switch gears, take you live outside. Look what that is, Las Vegas. And I just checked the temperature, 75 degrees there in Las Vegas compared to our gorgeous 85 degrees. Let's see how those temps and other conditions are going to be changing. Here's Guy Hockey.
Now, these brisk winds will hang on, we're thinking, until Saturday afternoon. That's when things will be changing. Notice the streamlines change color because that means the winds will be lightening up. And from Sunday on, we've got very, very soft winds. And that's why the weather pattern is going to change starting on Sunday with the lighter winds. In fact, on Wednesday, we could see, some significant rainfall on Wednesday. That's your first alert. Wednesday is when we could see some significant rainfall, especially for Kauai and Oahu. Until then, though, things look pretty good. Nice breezy trading weather that we've seen for the last several days will continue through Saturday. That means a few windward and Mauka showers, lots of leeward sunshine, on the whole, mostly dry. And then when the winds back off, afternoon clouds will build and they'll spawn a few showers, spotty in nature through Tuesday, and again, more widespread rain on Wednesday.
The scientists have spotted more trouble for the Great Barrier Reef, the world's largest coral ecosystem, and it could be tied to climate change. Tina Kraus reports.
The colorful coral of Australia's Great Barrier Reef is fading fast. Scientists surveying the underwater ecosystem found 91% of the areas they visited this year experienced bleaching.
This is heartbreaking. This is deeply troubling. It shows that our barrier reef really is in very serious trouble indeed.
Scientists blame a prolonged summer heat wave and warming waters from climate change. It's the fourth mass bleaching that's hit the world's largest coral reef system in 7 years.
It's always sad because I feel like this shouldn't be happening. We should have been able to fix this.
Climate activists are calling on Australia's government to act now to stop the destruction of the reef.
It is climate change that is driving the bleaching of the reef. Climate change itself being driven, of course, primarily by the burning of coal, oil and gas.
Scientists hope most of the coral can recover, but say the survival of the reef is in jeopardy.
If we're to have any shot of a living reef in future, we have to be bringing emissions down very quickly through the 2020s.
One of the world's greatest underwater treasures is depending on it. Tina Kraus, CBS News.
All right, let's take a look at what the internet is talking about. Several viral stories to get to today. Let's start with a local one. Check this out. Take a look at this. Hawaiian Airlines may be adding some innovation to its fleet. The carrier is partnering with an electric aircraft builder to make these e-powered sea glider planes. They look really cool. They fit up to 100 people, and Hawaiian may use them for inter-island commutes. No deal has been finalized, though, and any additions would, of course, take years away of approval processing. That takes some time.
Very cool and very exciting to see what could be on the horizon.
Yeah,
I mean, we've seen so many advancements lately.
This is my first time looking at this concept, and I like how flies so low to the ground. It makes me feel a little more secure if I was in one of those.
Inter-island, ideal conditions for something like that. Literally just go from Oahu to Maui, Maui to Molokai. You just be bouncing around, really.
Yeah, except for those high surf warning days.
Yes,
Yeah.
that's true. Yeah, that is a factor that would need to be taken into effect, but still really cool. Elsewhere in the airline industry, Southwest Airlines is enhancing its in-flight experience for customers. The low-cost airline is planning to invest $2 billion into a slew of upgrades, which include USB charging ports, high-speed Wi-Fi, more entertainment and drink options, as well as larger overhead bins. Need that storage, Jonathan. The enhancements are expected in the coming months. So good to see here. You know the thing I got to say about aircraft Wi-Fi, that's always a challenge because you get the password, you enter your credit card info, it never seems to work.
Yeah, sometimes it's tough. And then the Trans-Pacific flights, you're hoping for it, and then it's not there. But now Hawaiian's promising to hook up with the Starlink network, which could be cool as well.
So yeah, the entire experience is changing. All these different innovations.
Just make it faster.
Yes.
Make it faster.
Yeah. That's
Get me
the
out
other
of there.
thing coming down the pipe.
Yes, maybe. All right, you guys, if you're looking for something fun for your kids to do this summer, Casey Lund has you covered, and that's our good news now today.
Well, come Saturday morning at 9 o'clock, and honestly, well before that, city parks across Oahu, like this one we're at here at Booth District Park, will be lined with parents trying to get their kids a spot in the city's wildly popular summer fun program. They're almost back to full operations, hoping to accommodate anywhere between 9,000 and 10,000 kids, but some of that sort of depends on their staffing levels. Earlier this morning, we talked to Nate Sirota from the Department of Parks and Rec about exactly who they're looking for.
The more summer aides, the more basically camp counselors we have, the more kids we can accommodate. And really there's a need across the board. Here at Booth District Park, we have a couple vacancies. Please, if you're interested in this awesome seasonal job, call the park area, the summer fun site that you're interested in working at.
Another opportunity for young people this summer is through the YMCA of Honolulu. Lisa Ontai is Vice President of Marketing and Mission Advancement for the Y. She says they're also looking to hire this summer.
And we have programs for kids from toddlers to teens, and we're running programs throughout the island actually at all of our YMCA branches, but the demand has been so big, we're actually branching out and also offering programs at community areas and centers and also at schools.
Executive Director of the Atherton Y, Cassidy Imanasu, says there's even incentives for families who refer an employee that gets hired by the Y.
Anyone in the community refers someone to work at the YMCA and they're hired, you will get a $250 referral credit to be used within the next year for any services at the YMCA, whether it's after school programs, intersessions, or even membership and personal training. So there's that $250, but also for the employees that are hired, they're now eligible for up to 50% off any programs and services that they want throughout the year.
Both the city and county's summer fun program and the programs and camps offered by the YMCA are monitoring the rising COVID cases very closely. They say they'll make adjustments where needed, and they have protocols in place to keep Keiki and their families safe. You find more information on those programs and even opportunities to get a job this summer online at hawaiinewsnow.com. Reporting at Booth District Park, I'm Casey Lund. For now, we'll send things back to you.
Ooh, summer fun.
And summer fun games have certainly changed over the years. I never saw that one where the sticks are on the ground and there's a group of kids, they run to the next stick. We've come a long way from dodgeball.
Yeah, Red Rover. All that
the
stuff.
classics.
I was a big arts and crafts fan, really. All right, guys, that's going to do it for This Is Now on this almost Friday. We're almost to that weekend. Mark's back first at 4 on KHNL. Don't want to miss it. Have a good one.
See you then.